It started with glass shattering. I froze in my room as the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway. They weren't rushing. They were slow, careful, like they were listening for me. I dove to the floor and rolled under the bed, covering my mouth with both hands to keep from breathing too loudly. The footsteps stopped outside my door. The doorknob turned. I watched the shoes step into the room. Black boots, mud dripping onto the carpet. They moved around slowly, checking the closet, opening drawers. Then, silence. For a moment, I thought they'd left, until the boots stopped right in front of the bed. The sheets dipped. A hand pressed against the mattress, right above my face. I shut my eyes, praying they wouldn't look underneath. Then, suddenly, the boots walked away. But as I finally dared to breathe, a whisper slid under the bed frame. "I know you're down there." Story 2. I barely made it into the bathroom before I heard the front door slam open. I locked the door and killed the lights. The only sound was my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Footsteps echoed on the stairs. Then, silence. I crouched by the tub, clutching my phone, too afraid to call anyone in case the sound gave me away. The floor creaked outside. Then came the slow drag of a hand against the bathroom door. Fingernails scratching the wood. The knob rattled once, twice, then it stopped. I thought maybe they were leaving, but then, the sound of metal. They were sliding something into the lock. I held my breath as the knob slowly turned. Then, nothing. Just quiet. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. Finally, I leaned forward, pressing my ear to the door. That's when I heard it, breathing. Not outside the door, but inside, behind the shower curtain. Story 3. When I heard them break in, I ran to the basement, hoping the darkness would hide me. I crouched behind an old shelf, surrounded by boxes, trying to make myself as small as possible. At first it was quiet. Then I heard the creak of the basement door opening. One set of footsteps, then another. The beam of a flashlight swept across the walls. Dust lit up in the air like smoke. I squeezed my eyes shut as the light passed over me. The footsteps came closer. Boxes were being moved. Something metal fell to the ground and clanged. The light went out. Complete darkness. That's when I heard them whispering to each other. Too quiet to understand, but close. Very close. A box shifted beside me. Something brushed against my arm. I wanted to scream, but didn't. Then silence. The next thing I heard was the basement door closing and the lock clicking shut from the outside. I thought I was safe until I realized they weren't leaving. They were trapping me down there. The sound of glass breaking jolted me awake. My chest tightened as I froze in bed, straining to hear. At first, I thought it was the wind, until heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway. I slid out of bed and crept toward the closet, holding my breath. The footsteps grew louder, slow and deliberate, as if whoever was inside knew exactly where I was. The door creaked open. I could see the silhouette of someone standing there, a tall figure with something glinting in their hand. My heart hammered as I crouched lower, praying they wouldn't see me. But then, the closet door swung open. A rough hand grabbed me, yanking me into the hallway. I kicked and screamed, but another shadow appeared, helping pin me down. A bag was thrown over my head, the world going dark. They dragged me down the stairs. I could hear the sound of a lock clicking, a metal door shutting behind me. When the bag came off, I realized I was in my own basement, but it didn't look the same. The windows were sealed, heavy chains hung from the walls. One of them leaned close and whispered, "We've been watching you for weeks." And then they turned off the light, leaving me in the pitch-black silence of my own home, no longer mine. Story 5. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, when I heard the faint tapping. At first I thought it was tree branches against the window, until the tapping grew louder. Then came the sound of someone trying the latch. I grabbed a flashlight and slowly crept toward the noise. My blood ran cold when the beam revealed gloved hands prying the window open. Before I could react, the glass shattered inward, and two masked figures climbed inside. I bolted down the hallway, but they were fast. A hand wrapped around my arm, slamming me against the wall. My scream was muffled by duct tape across my mouth. They dragged me through my own living room and out the back door. The night air hit my face, but the relief didn't last. I realized we weren't leaving the property. They pulled me into the shed, where a chair waited with ropes tied around it. As they strapped me down, one leaned close. Through the mask, I could hear the rasp of his breathing. He whispered, "Nobody's coming. Nobody knows you're here." And then the shed door slammed shut. The sound of the lock clicking echoed louder than any scream I couldn't make. Story 6. It was late, too late for anyone to be at my door. When the knock came, it was soft at first, almost polite, then louder, louder, until the pounding shook the walls. I didn't answer. I didn't even move. But the pounding stopped, replaced by the sound of my back door slowly creaking open. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen drawer and crouched low, waiting. The house was silent, too silent, until I heard breathing that wasn't mine. I turned, and there they were, a masked figure standing in the hallway watching me. Before I could run, the lights cut out. Total darkness swallowed everything. I swung blindly, but hands grabbed me from behind. Something sharp pressed against my neck. My knife clattered to the floor. A voice whispered in my ear, "Shh, don't fight." When the lights came back on, I was no longer in the hallway. I was in a room I had never seen before. The walls were lined with soundproof padding. The door had no handle on my side. They stood across from me, silent, just staring. My house had been invaded, but worse. I realized this room had been prepared, not for them, for me.